well as give you an update of what transpired at the Steering One Committee meeting and our next steps with moving forward. If you can go to the next slide. Just as a recap, I want to remind us of the process that we'll be using over the next few months. The steering committee will do most of the work, really dedicating about 12 to 15 hours of time as a collective in coming together as a group. The steering committee functions as the working group, so they gather the input, they may be reviewing some of the data, and they'll also be helping with drafting the recommendations. The superintendent follows up with leading the development of the plan, reviews and brings the plan forward to the board, but the board will ultimately adopt and monitor the plan as well. The superintendent refines the recommendations, ensures that there is some alignment and the resources are available so that whatever the strategies and initiatives that are indicated in order for us to proceed to meet those priorities, those resources are there. And then finally, you know, the board is the governing body. You gave the green light for this process to begin. You'll be also adopting the plan and you'll be monitoring the performance of the plan. So let's talk about the timeline. The timeline for the project is still the same, and we'll let you know that we are on track. We completed the project planning, and now we're starting the steering committee meetings. That second meeting will be tomorrow. We have also started the stakeholder engagement, but because there were some surveys that were already done, we're looking at those surveys so that the surveys we put together will be more of an addition and not kind of repetitive questions. So we just want to make sure we're doing the best relative to that and getting additional information and not information we already have. We anticipate that those surveys and focus group meetings will begin to take place in March and April. And we'll be doing some data analysis work also in March and April, which will inform our next steering committee meeting. We'll be coming back, but that next steering committee will be in March. And then followed by that, will be in April for the next board work session. So along the way, you'll have opportunity to see what's happening, also to add your input as well, so that the final product could be something that the entire district and stakeholders can support. Again, that final leadership draft should be completed by June, and then we'll have that board presentation in July 14th. We have started some of the early steps with the data graphics, but we don't expect that work to really start until around May, June. But right now we're just collecting, you know, logos, colors, those types of things in order for our team to get started. So for steering committee meeting one, we met earlier this month. We had approximately 25 members that were in attendance at that meeting. What we did is really worked on defining the scope of the strategic planning work so that the team understood what would be their expectations over the next few months. We also worked in small groups, so we did some whole group activities, but then we also worked in small groups looking at other strategic plans to really give us an idea of what this process will entail and what the end product could be. So they looked at some various plans that gave them some ideas about what things they liked about it, what things resonated with them, and those things would then kind of lead to the development of the final plan. The steering input will inform the draft plan that will be provided to the board. So what were some of the things that we heard at that meeting? Basically, from the 6 groups, there was some alignment. The committee has selected and really wants for there to be a clear and concise plan of no more than 10 to 15 pages. Want to identify maybe 4 to 6 core commitments or priorities that would be the large focus. Definitely the plan should be student-centered, student-focused. There is a request to really ensure that there are visible timelines and milestone tracking so we could see the progress that's being made over time. It should be professional and accessible to the community, also physically as well as on the website. And while it could be data informed, we don't want it to be overwhelming, right? So not so dense that it's not attractive for people to read, but also meaty enough for people to understand where you are and where you're going. So those were the big headlines from that. And now I'll pass it to Grant, who will walk us through our governance lens.
Thank you. Good evening. Good to see everybody again. So now we're going to pivot to how we're going to spend the bulk of our time this evening, which is getting your thoughts and feedback and perspective on a few different guiding questions that we will ensure are integrated into the work we're doing with the steering committee, and then can be used as a framework for you to ultimately evaluate the draft of the plan when we bring that forward from the steering committee. And so if we could go to the next slide, we have a series of questions that we really want to talk through with the board to get your perspective. And Dr. Thomas Reynolds is going to be charting some of your thoughts, some of your feedback. But just wanted to start with the first sort of guiding question and topic for this evening, which is about student outcomes. And so I'll just read through some of these questions, but then would open it up to the board to hear some of your feedback. So some of the things to think through when we're talking specifically about student outcomes is what must be true for student success in Littleton Elementary School District? What outcomes matter most? And not just in terms of like programs underway and things like that, but what would it look like from a real tangible, measurable perspective to know that we've been successful? And with the third one, another way to kind of approach this conversation is my hope for Littleton graduates is that so that we have another way to say, like, are we actually achieving this for students that are leaving the district and going on to high school? So I'll open it up to the board. Would love your feedback. These are a few different questions that can be used to guide or frame your feedback, but specifically looking at student outcomes. And we'll get to some other topics as well, but we want to start with this one. And with that, would love to open it up to the board to hear any thoughts you have that can be used to drive the plan.
Thank you. Whatever is done needs to be done with a mindset of adaptability so that all of our students are able to learn where they are.
Other thoughts when it comes to student outcomes? How will we know if we've been successful in crafting the plan? Yes.
I'm just going to say, with my experience in working with different people over the years I've been here, reading is one of them. I'd like to see that these young people, when they are finished with Littleton, that they know how to read. I deal with some men that I work with in the church that can't even read some of the things, or they don't want to. So maybe it's a love for reading. I don't know what it is, but so they can be able to get out into the world and be able to read, whether it's an engineering book or a textbook or whatever it might be. So that for me is at least one thing. Measurable, I don't know, but that's what they're going to have to be prepared for the future. Any other thoughts? Linda?
Yeah, basic math skills. People can hear me. Basic math skills. I think, I mean, algebra and all that stuff is really good, but basic math skills, our kids don't have that. And yes, they can use a calculator, but if they don't know how to use it, what are they, then what are they going to do?
Oops, sorry.
I agree with all the points that have been stated, but actually making sure we have the staff and the programs in place to be able to make sure that those goals can succeed, because without the support, our students can't really achieve those goals that we set for them.
I would like to add on to what Marcus said, like staff that isn't burnt out or overworked so that they're able to do the magic that teaching and education is.
I would say also like long-term planning that, you know, when we actually say we review this data and we don't succeed at it, that holding ourselves accountable as leaders to make sure that next time we review what happened, so that doesn't happen again next time.
And I don't know how to do this one, but I can remember as a kid, I always felt like I was in a corner and wasn't always, I know, respected or talked to or something like that. And I don't know how it is, how we have, that when our students leave, they'll at least be open to being able to talk with other people rather than just, I don't want to talk to you for whatever reason. I don't know what the word is. Say it for me. Thank you. The social, again, yes, yes, something, yeah, very good, thank you.
I would like to add, like that bottom one, my hope for Littleton graduates is that when they go to La Jolla or Tolleson or West Point, they're successful in their classes. Like they don't need to be in the remedial classes or things like that. They can walk into high school and feel confident in their ability.
They're prepared for the next level.
Right.
And how do we prepare our exceptional students for success? Those that are in exceptional student services. You know, how are we going to prepare them to be successful?
I think kind of piggybacking off of that, also having our students be able to have real world skills and abilities. Because a lot of our students, you know, and I hate to say some students are not exceptional, a lot of our students, the next step at the high school is not college, it might be the workforce. And they need to be able to budget, they need to be able to live. So just having real world skills, I think would make them successful.
Yeah. Because a lot of gen ed students don't have life skills either. They don't know what a nickel is.
Along that line, I don't know, this is one of those pipe dreams way out there. Would it be available for if some of these parents needed to have some budgeting skills?
Mm-hmm.
Could we have, I don't know, what is that, an evening class or some type of a class that they could invite parents to come in and say, okay, this is what we're teaching your kids about budget. Would you also like to know? I don't know that's up there, but we're just throwing things out tonight, so let's just, something along that line.
And just with that in mind, even options being presented to them, I think getting kids excited about the next steps even before those steps come gives them an opportunity to have something to look forward to. So I would love for Littleton to be a district where our students have maybe the military come to visit, even in, you know, 7th and 8th grade, have college fairs where people are coming and explaining college and what that entails, and, you know, people explaining trades. Job Corps is really, really big in Phoenix, and they can come, and that will be something even for the students of Job Corps to be able to get credit, where they come down to the schools and explain the carpentry trade or the bricklaying trade or, you know, BCT, anything. And it allows our students to understand that there are multiple ways to be successful, and for them to be able to kind of connect with, you know, what works for them and gives them something to look forward to, not be hopeless if they're not, you know, traditionally geared towards college or something along those lines.
Yeah, I'll add on to what Curtis and Rachel said, that at our Family Welcome Center, making sure that that is just more than just a welcome center, but it's also a community hub, to where that if parents, students, or staff or community need resources for a certain thing, that they can go to be able to help their household.
So along that same line, I don't know, we're putting all these things for students. We want to make sure that there's other kids that are not members of the district, if I can say, that want to come. I don't know that I can say that. They want to come to Littleton because of what we've got together on our plan right here.
So I believe that Littleton does all of these things. I just want us to, I don't know the right word, expand on them, go more in depth, because I know like Collier does an amazing job with the financial part. Amazing. And our other schools, like our STEM schools and our leadership academies, And our welcome center, like I've gone in there several times, and they're amazing. Like they've always been so friendly. How can we, I guess, deep dive and add to it? To what we already have. Because I think what we have in place is really good. I just think we can add to it. So off of like what Amy and like what, Marcus said, staffing, how do we, with our staff so they aren't burnt out.
So from a staffing, from your program's perspective, really going from good to great, how do you keep building on that and achieving higher?
Mm-hmm.
Expanding it.
Yep.
To all our schools.
Yeah, and I think adding that is that really hypering up our marketing and our visibility as a district within our own community moving forward, I think would be really helpful as well.
Any other thoughts?
If we could go back for one moment, the question that was my hope for Littleton graduates is that you could just complete that just as a sentence. Yeah.
The last question right there. My hope for Littleton graduates is that they. No, pass it down that way.
Pass it down.
No.
Okay.
If you've got a thought before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one, I don't know, it's pretty emotional, I guess, but, there's a lot of things we want our kids to do, but we just want them to thrive, in whatever that they want to do in life, because we never know the path that they're going. I never thought when I promoted from fine arts I was going to be a board member 5 years later, so of the same district. So I think, that wasn't in my 8th grade promotion plan. So, whatever kids want to do, that they have the resources and the support system to thrive at what they want to do.
That was really good. I was going to say that, but I guess I would say my hope for Littleton graduates is that they are equipped to adapt to the changes, in life and the world, that they're able to stay above water pretty much.
I would say ditto, but I guess my hope for Littleton graduates is that they are confident that they can succeed in any situation that they're put in.
Can I just copy all of y'all's?
No, because I couldn't.
So I'm kind of ditto with the rest of them, but my hope for the Littleton graduates is that they, I just want them to leave with a good taste and like just to feel successful and know inside that they were supported and that we helped start the pathway to their future and led them to believe that they are capable of anything.
So overall positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
And set them up for success.
I was going to say success, but maybe be prepared for what they want to do in the future. I again look at my career and what I think back. There aren't a lot of things I remember from college. Well, there are a lot of things I remember from elementary school and other places that were those first primal, whatever your thoughts and actions or whatever it was. And I probably, not that I live back there, but my thoughts go back there more frequently. Not that I'm older, but they go back there more frequently than college. Just so successful and prepared for the future. Any other thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to move us to the next topic then. So that was incredibly helpful in terms of hearing a variety of different perspectives and a lot of different ideas. But with this next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about prioritization. So especially thinking about this in terms of year 1 or year 2, what are the most important things to focus on? And, the other way to say that is that second question there, what cannot be compromised? So when you think about all of the things that we would like to accomplish, all of the things that we would like to see reflected in the plan, what is what should be most prominent and what should be kind of at the pinnacle in terms of priorities? What cannot be compromised? Would love to hear any thoughts you have there on what's most important. And again, this will help inform development with the steering committee.
I believe we can do everything.
I think what cannot be compromised is student emotional well-being. And, you know, I think a lot of times we, as a district, and not just in our district, but all districts, we're so based on like, what do the test scores say? Like, let's get them, okay, these are not good. Let's get, you know, let's get them up for the next time. And so we're working our kids like mules, not being conscious and cognizant of their social emotional well-being. So I think we cannot compromise, you know, that aspect of them, that social part of their spirits.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Rachel said. I think from my perspective is the diversity of our student population and our staffing. That's kind of what I feel cannot be compromised.
I would say the understanding that we educate the whole child. Like they're kind of what Rachel was saying, they're not just a test score, they're not just a double score, they're a whole child, and we need to focus on their strengths and find a way to use their strengths to help them learn how to read or do basic math and things like that.
And I was just going to go back to basic skills, you know, how to get along with your friend. What's the book? I learned everything I needed to do in kindergarten. But the basic skills, whether it's reading, writing, emotional, getting along one with another, just those basic skills that are going to launch them into the future, that can't be compromised. They can't get out there and not know who I am or what I need to do. Any other thoughts? Things that cannot be compromised, that's how you said that?
Our staff, especially our support staff.
Any last thoughts before we go to the next section? Okay. We will push.
So for this one, I do have another question. Another way to think about it, what are some non-negotiables for you here?
Say that again, please. What's the question?
What are some non-negotiables, like relative to what you want for students? So we definitely want for students to, for the whole child to be educated. We want to focus not only on their intellectual from reading, mathematics, and so forth, basic skills, but also that social.
You want to take the mic so they can hear it out?
This may also help, right? In terms of thinking about non-negotiables, what you all have just stated is that you definitely want to educate the entire child. You want that child to be educated in knowing, feeling confident and comfortable in basic skills and able to thrive from that. You also want for this to extend beyond just academic, because it's the social emotional well-being is just as important, and the means by which we'll be able to do that is looking at your staffing, understanding that we have our teachers, but our support staff is just as important in this process. That's what I'm hearing. The sounds okay. Anything else that is a non-negotiable for you?
I know this is a work in the progress, but sustainability, you know, whether it's gardening, trees, learning about the environment, and one day, hopefully, electric vehicles in our fleet, so that we can combat air pollution in our community, you know, because we have really, really bad air pollution in our community. So I feel like that's, for me, is a non-negotiable.
From an environmental perspective, okay.
Our kids need to be healthy to learn.
Any other thoughts?
I don't know if this is answering your question really, but non-negotiables for me are I want to maintain our special education programming and our gifted programming and our English language learner programming, and supporting those students that just need more support or need additional challenge to be, you know, engaged in school.
engagement investment to kind of keep it thriving as well.
And I think another thing is, I don't know, I can't say the name. Like reading, not reading, like arts, music, theater. I kept forgetting the name of it. Extracurriculars, I guess. Special areas for, yeah, related arts. That's what I was trying to find. Related arts. There's so many acronyms of related arts. Yeah, I feel like those are really non-negotiable. And I think over the years we've seen, we've lost a lot of our arts programs in our district. And so I really want to make sure that we have art teacher, a music teacher, a dance teacher, PE teacher at every single school, so that our kids can have that.
Okay, I'm going to pivot to the next section here, which is a little bit different, and this came up in the first steering committee meeting in terms of community confidence. So in your role as elective stewards, part of it includes obviously gaining and maintaining the public trust. So a couple questions to think about here that would, again, help us guide ongoing conversations with the steering committee is, what would make this plan successful in the community? And how will we know that the community has confidence not only in the plan, but in your oversight of it? So starting to think a little bit about not just the content of the plan, but how will you check in on the progress of the plan in the coming school year? So again, none of these are actual decision points for tonight, but really looking to get your feedback, perspective on different themes that can be used to evaluate the final components of the plan and the content of the plan. So would love to hear any thoughts you have on how we can frame guardrails for drafting this.
I think community input is so important. I know a lot of parents have conveyed feeling as if they have not been included in certain things. I think about when we log into Facebook and we'll get these random advertisements for like charter schools in the neighborhood, like, oh, come to this, open house, come to this, So I think if the community had opportunities that were widely publicized where they knew that this is what's going on, this is your opportunity to be able to have like an open forum and discuss it, question and answer where it's, back and forth, not just being spoken to, but they're able to, give input as well. I think the community would be a lot more vested in the growth and any changes because they would feel like they were at the forefront of them.
I agree with what Rachel said. I would also add, if our enrollment starts to drop and we start having more charter schools in the district or more charter schools looking in the district, then that tells me that we're not meeting the needs of our community.
Yeah.
We went to this specialized focus campuses because we saw that this is what charter schools were doing to get students to enroll. And so that's what we did. We made our schools have focuses. So if we're not meeting their needs, our parents and our community will go somewhere else. So.
Yeah, 100% agree with what Rachel and Amy said. Especially when kids, I think at a younger age, parents have way more options compared to high school for schooling. Charter schools are very vicious when it comes to young people and elementary school students. So I do agree that we have to take the community along the path. It can't just be a plan. We show them, they're gonna be like, oh, well, I didn't know they were making a plan. I didn't know what is a strategic plan. I know this is something new to our district and to our community. So taking them along the progress of it, not just telling them that we have a plan, making sure they're a part of it, because it cannot be continued to be top-down model. It has to be from bottom up. It has to come up from the bottom. The community has to be a part of it. And however that process looks like is what our superintendent and our administration does day to day.
I agree with all that's been said. I think one thing that I've noticed again in my career is the mere fact that we have these nice plans and they stay right here. They don't get out. I don't know if you got to get the kids to participate in them. The kids can take them home to parents. Parents then can say, oh, my kids go to da-da-da, and they want to bring them here. We get inundated with information today between emails and texts and everything else like that. Maybe there's going to be a better way to do this. I don't know. Stamp it on your I don't know what it is. go back to the old way of sending a piece of paper home with the kids. It says, we've got an activity, take it home, and let mom and dad put it on the refrigerator. I don't know what it is. I guess that's what we can come up with, or the group, but there's got to be a better way of getting what we feel is important as a plan for these kids, to the kids and into the parents.
So I guess my thing is, how do we get the community involved? Like, how do we get them to come to things like this? I know there's probably several listening online, but how do we get them to come to the schools and to listen to, you know, what we've got going on? How do we get them to get involved and be part of the committees that we have? I just went to a meeting of the principal, the interim principal at Lakin, and I'd say there was maybe 20 parents there. And, you know, Lakin's growing, and it's becoming a pretty big school, and they've had a lot of challenges this year. So what do we do as a district and a board to get our community and our parents involved? I see, like, I'm part of every Facebook group of all the schools and the district. And there's stuff on Instagram and Facebook and, well, not TikTok, but, so yeah, I guess figure out how we get them more involved. And to know that, you know, we are approachable.
I would say to Linda's point, I've always been a fan of surveys. You know, I think that's an important way. I think when we did our uniform survey, I think that was the first time, at least as a sitting board member, I actually saw real data from the community, like input on what people thought about a decision that we actually made. That wasn't just a small committee or an internal decision from staff. It was actually community input. Parents were actually able to make a decision on something that could affect their kids. So I think moving forward as we make decisions like this, like I mentioned, why I wanted to know earlier on who was going to be on the steering committee, because if you do that survey, let the community know early on we are doing a strategic plan. Maybe that parent who just moved in wants to get interested and be on that committee. And what that does is that builds internally trust to a lot of new homeowners who are buying homes in our district to be able to actually be a part of a new process and build that early buy-in. Because it shows that we are willing to take uncomfortable approaches and new approaches that actually drive in people and keep them here. Instead of going to AMS or Legacy or Sun Valley Academy. So we really have to do innovative, and yes, it's new stuff, and it requires new work and new skills and new knowledge of things, but what it does is it benefits us as a district overall. So I've always been a fan of it. I really liked that we took our time with the uniform survey process. It took us, I think, almost a year to do it. We saw the data, and we had input. So.
Did you do that survey annually, or was that a one-timer?
I don't know. Maybe Dr. Lafitte could add. I know that was the first time I've ever seen a survey presented to the board, like district-wide.
Okay.
My understanding is it was specific to the request, so that's why it went out.
Okay.
It was specific to the request to investigate uniforms.
Okay.
All right, any other comments on community?
I would just say, to everyone's point, when there's a level of familiarity and people know who this person is and what role they play, they become more vested. I think about, at one point, my own children were at Collier, and they had a very, very strong PTA there, and everything was consistent. I think they have, like, it's you can feel it, like they have that going on. They, you know, it's a smooth, well-oiled machine. But I think a lot of times, and something that we as a district are working on, is trying to establish that at every school, because then there are parents who kind of are vested in it, and they share with other parents, like, hey, listen, do you know that on Tuesday this is what's going on? You should come to it, you know? And a lot of times when that happens, you know, that word of mouth makes other parents become invested too. Like, oh, this is what's happening? Okay, well, you know, I want to be involved in it as well.
What I feel like you guys are also saying, it's more of branding to have your school, your district stand out, but then each school, whether your special schools, your STEM schools, whatever they may be, to be elevated. That's what it's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
I think
Okay.
we're good there.
Okay, we're gonna go to the next piece here, but don't lose sight of the last bullet there, particularly if you could go back one slide. The last bullet there, how will we know the community has confidence in both the plan and our oversight of it? And that's what we're gonna be talking a little bit more with this next slide here. So if you could go to the next slide, what evidence does the board expect to see?
So from some of the things that you shared, with what you want to see from students, you talked about reading scores, math, SEL. Let's talk about some evidence now so we can know, how do you know if you've met that? What will it take for you to feel comfortable that you have met that threshold? Yes.
This is just something that we think about as far as just behaviors. So we get a report and it lets us know, this behavior and this infraction happened at this school. I think that as a board, will be evidence that these things are working is when there's a decrease and a decline. Because a lot of times we are without, certain supports. If those supports were in place and then we see evidence of it by a reduction in these behaviors, then I think that will be, really very, very telling.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to see, because I know we're going to talk about monitoring at the next slide, so I don't know if maybe this is jumping ahead, but actually seeing results. So like whether it's creating SMART goals throughout this process to ensure that we actually met those goals, or how close we are to succeeding them, or where we fell short.
Okay.
I would hope to see that we are retaining our staff and our administration at our sites, and then hopefully that enrollment will either stay the same, or I would love for it to grow, and maybe us push charter schools out of our district.
So teacher retention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not just teacher retention, but
Staff retention. Okay. And enrollment. Okay.
I guess could you give us an example of just, this is evidence that you want us to see throughout the process, or just like at the end of it?
So we can, I feel where you are, because you're kind of like, am I looking at it for the year? Am I looking at it quarterly? Right. And so we can kind of move into the second question as well as we think about this. But based on this evidence, how frequent would you want to see it, right? Is it something just at the end of the year? Is it something you would like to see the status on by quarter, semi-annually? I think once, we get an idea of that, that would also help in how we shape the final results of the goals once the data begins to show where we're starting and where we're trying to go. Twice a year? Okay. Okay.
Sorry. I was thinking quarterly only because then it would allow us more opportunities to be able to see if we need to pivot, change something, and just make those adjustments, by quarter.
Okay.
I don't know how much quarterly would be, but I think I'm with agreement Marcus here, maybe even semi-annually at least. That way you can at least get somewhere in there. It's not quarterly and make adjustments every quarter, but at least semi-annually you can make adjustment for the second half, or see where we are on target or not, or where we may need to tweak something here. Just we got the staff, and as soon as we put rubrics on what they're supposed to be watching, everything else, maybe that's what they need to do. We do it semi-annually, and if it's proving more successful and we're getting things, maybe we can do it quarterly and see how we're moving up and down.
Okay. Take them all. Okay. So now we're on to the next slide, and we're looking at the next one. This will be some alignment. So if we click one more time. As the committee begins to bring this together and put forth, what the goals would be, or the goals that they're proposing, there will need to be a look at some of the policies and the reporting structures to just ensure, kind of like on what we just did here, how would that cadence really be, semi-annually, quarterly, what have you. So there's nothing for us to do tonight relative to this. We just wanted to note that this will be ongoing, and as we come back in April, we'll probably be looking at this to ensure, you know, how are we being accountable for this over the duration of the 3 to 5 year plan that we do develop. So this is not something we need to make note of right now, but it is something that you'll have to think about once the priorities are established and the goals have been established. What will be the mechanism or the policies to ensure that your superintendent, the leadership team, the principals, and the schools have what they need in order to be able to thrive. So nothing to do tonight, but just something to kind of think about long term. Okay. So the next step is kind of giving you an update of what will happen tomorrow during our steering committee 2. That will be held here at 10:30 to 12:30 p.m. At this time, we will begin to start working in groups again, looking at what's on the website, right? So looking at your mission statement, your vision statement, what resonates, what might be missing, what may need further clarity. And so this will be the stakeholders' way of being able to provide some input relative to that. And then when we come back, we'll take what they have shared based on the information, what you all have also provided, what synergies are we beginning to see, what connections are we beginning to see that kind of can begin to bring the whole thing together. So that will be tomorrow. We're very excited about that. We usually share information from what other districts are doing, but it's a kind of a dive into your core values, your mission, your vision, and just to get feedback. It's what's out there in the space right now, and let's get some feedback on, you know, clarity on it. Do we understand it? Does it fit for the time that we're in right now? Okay. Then I'll open it up to any questions.
So I'll just ask one while we're talking here. I mean, we were talking about not pushing to the end too quickly. This is a 5-year program, a 5-year plan, excuse me.
5-year plan.
And in that, so we're not going to have the first year, everything that we need to look at the 5th year. We're going to do some type of a progressive type thing and do a little increment, whatever increment it might be, to address this one as we come. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. So you may have some things that you begin planning, then you maybe have a year 2 where you're implementing some things where you haven't quite started something else, because you can't do everything. Let's go back to one of the things in the beginning. You can't do everything, right? So you're going to have to prioritize, and that's where, you know, based on that feedback from the committee and the superintendent and his team, what's the best strategy to move things forward that would get you the most results, that will address those guardrails that you've in essence provided us with tonight.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. Only took 45 minutes, so very happy. As the stakeholder engagement goes, have you guys created a schedule and what groups you plan to engage in?
We have not finalized that yet. What we've been doing is just looking at the surveys so we can kind of see what do we need to establish relative to that survey first. The second thing is that I think when we'll be back here in April, we would like to do some focus groups at the schools, some parents and that sort of thing. There is the option where we can also do that online as well. So we're open to whatever would work best for the group. But we have talked about students. We've talked about, again, going to the different schools. You do have some voices of, you know, teachers, administrators, and so forth that's on the stakeholder groups. But I do think having, you know, a little bit more feedback from parents, you know, based on some of the things tonight that have been shared would be helpful. And so those focus groups would happen, though, in April.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we really get input from students and parents and staff. You know, we can say and do everything in this room, but if we don't have students or teachers, there's no point of this plan.
Yeah, they're the end users, so, right? And the primary benefactors, so I agree.
No support from the outside. Yeah, we need that. Any other comments, questions while we're here? Well, you must have done a good job of getting what you need. Anything that you need to ask us or that we've missed along the line there?
No, I think what this is helpful for us is really to just help us understand what are the concerns that you have. So as we're talking about things that we're seeing, we're going to have a litmus test almost, okay, is where does this check off on this list? And there might be some other things that come up that the group also identifies, but this is a way of just making sure we're all kind of in line, you know, from the steering committee to the superintendent and his team, and then also with the board, there's full alignment. So thank you all.
Any other comments? Dr. Lafitte, any comments?
I'd just like to thank everyone for their work with this. Thank our facilitators and thank the board for the input. I mean, it's an opportunity that I think we have to capitalize on some phenomenal things moving forward. And, you know, as long as we continue to give voice to it and to identify what those needs are and to truly look at that centerpiece that is student focused and what are the things that will help our students, because ultimately that's what this is all about. It's about our students and how they are able to kind of move through the world after their experiences with us. You know, obviously we want all of our stakeholders to be engaged, and I think the work that's been laid out right now really has begun to do that. A couple weeks ago when we met with the steering committee, I think it was an amazing opportunity. I think everyone came in not really knowing what to expect, and for me, I had an inkling because I had gone through these processes before, and as folks were leaving, you really saw genuine smiles on their face because you could see people seeing that there's this light, there's this hope, there's this opportunity that we can create something that will do something phenomenal for our community. So I'd like to just appreciate everyone in this.
Thank you so much. Any other final comments? If not, item number 6, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You done good, guys. Thank you all.